1. Never trust the one who talks too much because if they talk about them, they'll talk about you. Real ones move in silence, not in circles of gossip. If their mouth is a highway for other people's business, your secrets won't survive 5 minutes. You need people who protect your name when you're not in the room, not ones who drop your reputation for attention. Remember, loyalty isn't loud, it's proven. 2. Never trust the one who disappears when you struggle because if they can't fight with you, they don't deserve to celebrate you. Hard times reveal real people. If they vanish when life gets dark, don't let them reappear when the spotlight turns on. A true friend doesn't just clap when you win, they pray with you when you're losing. The ones who stay in the storm are the ones you build with after it passes. 3. Never trust the one who flatters you more than they challenge you because growth comes from truth, not comfort. Everybody loves to be praised, but don't let sweet words poison your potential. The ones who always agree with you don't care about you, they care about being liked by you. Trust the one who tells you the truth, even when it's hard to hear. That's the person who wants to see you rise, not just stick around. 4. Never trust the one who pretends to be perfect, because the biggest liars wear the cleanest masks. Beware of the person who never admits a mistake, never takes responsibility, and always blames others. That's not strength, that's deception. Real strength is found in humility. If they can't own their own mess, they'll never respect your honesty. Trust those who are real, not flawless. 1. Never trust the one who talks too much because if they talk about them, they'll talk about you. There's something dangerous about a person who's never quiet, someone who uses their words not to build, but to break, to spill, and to spread. Talking is not the problem. We all do it. It's the intent behind the words that makes all the difference. Some people speak to bring clarity. Others speak to stir confusion. Some speak life, while others spill venom in the form of entertainment. And one of the most dangerous traits in a person, especially someone you think you can trust, is their inability to protect what is sacred. Because if their tongue has no filter when discussing someone else's struggle, secret, or business, you better believe it has no brakes when it comes to yours. You can't trust someone who turns every conversation into a confession booth, except they're not confessing anything of their own. They're pulling out the skeletons of everyone else's closet just to make the room feel comfortable. They like attention, but they lack accountability. They're fluent in flattery, but allergic to confidentiality. And too often, they disguise their gossip as concern, their drama as transparency. But don't be fooled. If you sit long enough and listen close, you'll notice something. They never stop talking about other people, but they never say anything meaningful about themselves. That's not openness. That's deflection. That's a red flag. The person who talks too much is often the one who's been driven by validation. They want to be needed. They want to be known. And in the absence of authenticity, they substitute stories. Stories about other people. Stories that weren't theirs to tell. Stories they twist, exaggerate, or overshare, not to help anyone, but to elevate their own relevance. The problem is, when you get close to them, when you begin to build trust with them, they don't suddenly change their nature. They just add you to their list of talking points. And by the time you realize it, the damage is already done. What people forget is this: the ones who run their mouths rarely run with integrity. You can't pour your soul into someone whose vessel leaks. You can't confide in someone who thinks confidentiality is optional. Trust isn't about how much someone likes you in your presence. It's about how they speak about you in your absence. And when someone shows you early on that they can't hold someone else's privacy sacred, you don't need to wait for them to violate yours. Believe the pattern. Protect your peace. There are conversations that are sacred. There are moments between people that are meant to be protected, not repeated. But to the one who talks too much, everything becomes content. Every pain becomes a punchline. Every confession becomes a currency they use to buy approval. They thrive on knowing things others don't. And when you let someone like that close, they use what you shared not as a shield to cover you, but as a spotlight to expose you. You may think they respect you. You may think you're different. But gossipers don't have categories, they have habits. And habits don't change just because they like you. They may not spread your business today, but give it time. If it benefits their image, if it strengthens their circle, if it gives them 5 minutes of attention in a room where they feel unseen, they'll spill what you gave them in confidence without blinking. And when that happens, it won't just hurt. You'll feel betrayed by someone who once made you feel safe. That's the subtle trap of talkers. They have a way of making you feel like you're the only one they trust, like you're the only one who truly gets them, like you've been chosen to receive the inside scoop because you're so special. But in reality, they're not showing you trust. They're using flattery as a smokescreen for disloyalty. Because if they talked about their best friend to you, if they aired out their family's dirty laundry at lunch, if they threw their own teammates under the bus just to sound funny, what makes you think your name is sacred to them? Real trust is quiet. It doesn't need applause. It doesn't need to prove anything. Real trust can hold space for someone's story without needing to broadcast it to the world. Real trust doesn't make jokes at the expense of people who aren't in the room. It doesn't turn pain into punchlines or private struggles into public entertainment. It stands firm when gossip circles form. It stays silent when it could profit from speaking. And most importantly, it knows the value of loyalty, not just in action, but in speech. So many people have been burned not because they trusted the wrong person entirely, but because they overlooked one small red flag. They ignored that gut feeling when someone was too eager to spill tea. They laughed along when someone turned a sensitive topic into a joke. They let it slide when someone gave them too much information that clearly wasn't theirs to share. They confused charisma with character. And by the time they realized the difference, the damage was irreversible. Protecting your peace sometimes means limiting your access. It means not telling your deepest battles to someone who lives to narrate other people's lives. It means having the strength to be discerning, not judgmental, but wise. Because there's a cost to giving your trust to someone who doesn't value words. And that cost shows up in broken relationships, stolen reputations, and unnecessary drama that could have been avoided if boundaries were respected. Pay attention to how people speak about others when they're not in the room. That's not just personality, that's principle. That's not just harmless conversation, that's an X-ray of their loyalty. The one who constantly talks too much doesn't always look like a threat. They may be charming, they may be funny, they may seem like the life of the party, but charm can't cover a leaking heart. And humor doesn't make betrayal less painful. If someone can't be silent where silence is sacred, then they can't be trusted where trust is required. Some people use words as weapons, some use them as walls, and others use them as bridges. The talker uses words for one purpose, only to be heard, not to help. They'll talk over you, talk past you, talk around you, but they'll rarely talk with you. Because to truly connect, you have to listen. You have to honor space. You have to know when not to speak. And that's a skill the habitual talker never masters. So don't fall for the hype. Don't mistake over-communication for vulnerability. Don't confuse storytelling with sincerity. Sometimes the loudest voice is the most insecure. Sometimes the one who knows everyone's business is the one who's hiding from their own. And sometimes the one who seems the most open is actually the most dangerous, because they've learned how to hide their intentions behind the noise. Watch the pattern, listen for the signs. Not everyone who smiles in your face would defend your name behind your back. Not everyone who shares a joke is joking. And not everyone who shares information should be given more. Protect yourself. Trust wisely. Keep your circle small and your silence sacred. Because when it comes to trust, it's not about how much someone says, it's about how much they respect what should never be said at all. 2. Never trust the one who disappears when you struggle, because if they can't fight with you, they don't deserve to celebrate you. There's a truth that time and trials will always expose. The people who show up when you're shining are not always the people who will stay when your world falls apart. When everything's going right, the room is full. When you've got success, status, energy, and momentum, everyone wants a seat at your table. But the moment the spotlight dims, the moment the applause fades, the moment life hits you hard, look around. Who's still there? Who's still standing beside you when there's nothing left to gain? Because the one who walks away in your struggle should never be trusted with your victory. You learn who's real when you're in the valley. When you're broken, discouraged, or directionless. When you don't have answers. When you can't be helpful, can't be funny, can't offer anything but your pain. That's when people's hearts are exposed. Not when you're strong, but when you're weak. Not when you're on top, but when you're knocked down. The ones who disappear in those moments don't just leave physically, they abandon you emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And they don't realize that their absence speaks louder than any words they ever said when you were thriving. This kind of person is easy to spot once you've been through a storm. They don't answer the phone when you're hurting. They're suddenly too busy when you need support. They avoid deep conversations because they don't want to carry any weight that doesn't benefit them. They'll show up for your celebrations but not your battles. And they'll call it boundaries, but it's really just self-interest disguised as wisdom. The truth is, anyone can be with you in the good times. Anyone can post a picture with you when you're winning. But trust should never be given to someone who can't walk with you through the war. If they can't sit with you in silence when your world is falling apart, they don't get to stand beside you when it starts coming back together, because real loyalty is tested in the furnace. And real friendship is forged in fire, not fantasy. There's a difference between those who love you and those who love what you bring. Some people are addicted to your light because they need it to shine. But when your light goes out, they panic because now they have to stand in their own darkness. And instead of learning how to help you rebuild, they retreat. Not because they're incapable, but because their presence was always conditional. Conditional on your success, conditional on your usefulness, conditional on your ability to inspire them. Once those conditions fade, so does their commitment. You have to understand something. The people who are meant to walk with you long-term are not afraid of your mess. They're not intimidated by your pain. They don't disappear when things get ugly. They dig in. They pray harder. They lean closer. They remind you who you are when you've forgotten it yourself. They don't just encourage you, they fight for you, beside you. Because loyalty doesn't leave just because the season gets hard. Loyalty stays, even when staying is uncomfortable. One of the greatest deceptions is assuming that presence in good times equals partnership for all time. Just because someone claps when you win doesn't mean they'll comfort you when you lose. And just because someone celebrates your elevation doesn't mean they'll help you heal when you fall. The celebration crowd is loud, but the healing crew is quiet and small. But those few who remain when everything falls apart, those are the ones worth building with. There's pain in realizing that some of the people you trusted were only there for a version of you. The version that made them feel good, the strong version, the funny version, the got it all together version. But when you showed them the version that was tired, frustrated, broken, or confused, they backed away. They didn't want real, they wanted curated. And the moment you couldn't deliver the version of yourself that kept them comfortable, they walked. But here's the freedom. Once someone disappears during your struggle, you are not obligated to invite them back for your success. You don't owe explanations. You don't owe second chances to someone who made a clear choice when you needed them most. They didn't just leave a space, they left a message. A message that said, I'm not built for this level of loyalty. And that's okay, let them go, because what's real can't be shaken by struggle. You need people who don't flinch when life gets real. People who will pull up in the darkest nights and sit on the floor with you until the light comes back. People who remember your value when your performance fails. People who don't care about your resume, they care about your heart. People who don't need you to be strong all the time to stay connected. People who won't let you isolate, won't let you give up, won't let you forget the strength that still lives inside of you. You need people who carry your name in prayer when you're too tired to speak. People who check on you when you've gone silent. People who notice your eyes before they notice your smile. Because a real friend doesn't need an invitation to stand by you in a storm. They show up with rain boots and a flashlight and say, let's get through this. There's also wisdom in understanding that absence doesn't always mean hate, it just reveals priority. You weren't important enough for them to push through discomfort. You weren't vital enough for them to stay present through pain. And that's not a reflection of your worth. That's a reflection of their limitations. People can only love you at the level they've matured. And some people have never been taught how to stay. They've only learned how to celebrate. But don't let that make you bitter. Let it make you better at discerning who's who. Let it refine your inner circle. Let it help you stop chasing people who were never equipped to walk through hard seasons. You were not made to beg for loyalty. You were made to reflect it, to value it, to offer it to those who truly understand its weight. Because loyalty is not about convenience, it's about covenant. It's about choosing to stay when leaving would be easier. It's about building, even when breaking feels justified. What you learn when you struggle is how to love from a healed place, not a desperate one. You stop needing everyone, you start appreciating the ones who stayed. You stop inviting everyone to the table, you start feeding the ones who fed you when you had nothing. And you stop over-explaining your pain to people who were never listening. You start healing in peace with the few who saw your brokenness and didn't run. In the end, struggle doesn't just build you, it exposes others. It burns off the fake, it reveals the fragile. And it helps you see that trust is earned in silence, in sacrifice, and in storms. Not in applause, not in parties, not in promises, but in presence. Raw, unfiltered, and unwavering presence. Because the one who can't show up in your lowest moment will never understand the depth of your highest one. And the one who disappeared in your weakness won't know how to handle your strength. So don't try to bring them back. Don't waste energy explaining what they were never willing to endure. Instead, walk with the ones who stayed, build with the ones who showed up, and move forward with those who proved, not through words, but through presence, that they were never in it for what you had, they were in it for who you are. 3. Never trust the one who flatters you in public, but criticizes you in private, because that's not loyalty, that's manipulation. There's a certain type of person who wears a mask so well, you don't even notice the cracks in their character until it's too late. They smile in front of you, compliment you when the crowd is watching, and uplift you when it benefits their own image, but the moment you're out of sight, their words shift, their tone changes, their respect disappears. They use your name in private places not to honor you but to harm you. And you have to learn, the one who praises you in public but wounds you in secret is not a friend. They're a threat in disguise. Flattery is not the same as affirmation. Flattery is sugar-coated manipulation. It's a performance, a way of saying what they think you want to hear so they can gain access, favor, or position. But real affirmation builds you up when no one else is watching. Real affirmation holds your name with honor in rooms you're not in. Real loyalty doesn't switch up depending on who's in the room. But the flatterer? They're a shapeshifter. They become whoever they need to be to fit the moment, and that's the danger. When someone tells you everything you want to hear but never tells you what you need to hear, you're not being protected, you're being played. You can't grow with people who are more interested in being liked than being honest. You need truth tellers, not crowd pleasers. You need people who can hold a mirror up to you, not just hold a microphone next to you. What makes this kind of person so dangerous is how subtle they are. They act like supporters. They repost your wins, cheer in the comments, and shake your hand in the hallway. But behind closed doors, their tone changes. They second-guess your decisions. They downplay your efforts. They poke holes in your confidence and call it just being real. And it's never to your face, it's always to someone else. They want to look loyal while planting seeds of doubt behind the scenes. That's not friendship, that's sabotage. Never trust someone who builds you up only to tear you down when you're not around, because that's not love, that's strategy. That's someone keeping you close for access, for status, for visibility, but never out of genuine care. They don't love you, they love the idea of you. They love being next to your spotlight, but they don't respect the weight of what you carry. And when someone doesn't respect your calling, they'll eventually try to replace it or ruin it. People like this are not always easy to spot because they dress up their critiques and concern. They'll say, "I'm just worried about them," or "I support them, but concern that doesn't come directly to you isn't love, it's gossip." And any critique that bypasses your ears and goes to someone else's is not accountability, it's betrayal. Real friends come to you, not about you. Real loyalty addresses issues privately, directly, and respectfully, not sneakily and strategically. And here's the hardest part to swallow. Some of the people who praised you the loudest were the ones most secretly threatened by your rise. They cheered because it looked good. But deep down, they were keeping score. Your growth irritated their insecurity. Your progress reminded them of their procrastination. Your elevation triggered their envy. So instead of clapping from a pure place, they flattered you to stay close because distance would expose their true feelings. They kept the mask on to stay near the fire, not to feel its warmth, but to learn how to put it out. You need people in your life who are consistent, who don't need a platform or an audience to respect you, who don't change their tone when the room changes, who honor your name in private with the same strength they do in public. If someone shifts depending on who they're around, that's not integrity, that's instability. And you can't build anything lasting with someone who's double-minded. You can't trust the hands of someone who uses their voice to tear you down in secret, because sooner or later, their words will do more damage than their absence ever could. Words build worlds. And when someone uses their words to diminish your worth when you're not in the room, they are rewriting your identity in the minds of others. That's not a misstep, that's warfare, emotional warfare, reputational warfare. And it often comes wrapped in fake smiles and just checking in messages. Watch how people treat your name when you're not around. Watch how they speak about you when there's no benefit to it. Do they stand up for you when someone questions your character? Do they defend your effort when others downplay it? Do they silence gossip or join it? Because that's where true loyalty is, revealed in the shadows, in the side conversations, in the decision to speak life or spread doubt when you're not present to protect yourself. One of the most powerful things you can do is confront this behavior, not in rage, but in clarity. Bring the words back to the source. Say, "I heard this was said, help me understand." Because when light enters a room, darkness has to scatter. The ones who spoke in secret will either confess or become defensive. But either way, you'll see what they're really made of, and that's clarity. Painful, but freeing. Because once you see someone's true nature, you can adjust your boundaries accordingly. Here's what you must never forget. Trust is not built through words, it's proven through patterns. Anyone can say they love you. Anyone can say they support you. But watch what they do when your name is brought up in tough conversations. Watch what they do when someone questions your decision-making. Watch what they do when the crowd turns cold. The ones who stay loyal, even when it costs them something, those are the people worth keeping close. And here's the truth that will set you free. You don't need everyone to be for you. You just need a few who are truly with you. It's better to walk with 2 who are solid than to march with 20 who are fake. You don't need loud flattery, you need quiet integrity. You don't need public applause, you need private protection. You don't need surface-level support, you need deep-rooted loyalty. Let people show you who they are. Believe them the first time. When someone uses your name for clout but criticizes you in secret, that's not a mistake, it's a message. It's a warning. It's your signal to guard your space, protect your peace, and prioritize your purpose. Because your purpose is too valuable to be sabotaged by someone who never had the capacity to celebrate it without comparison. And here's what you will discover over time. The ones who really love you don't need the crowd to validate their support. They don't need a stage to stand beside you. They don't need public recognition to act with honor. They walk with consistency, speak with sincerity, and show up when it counts, not just when it's convenient. They call out your blind spots, but they do it with care. They challenge you, but they never humiliate you. They hold you accountable, but they never assassinate your character. Never confuse the two, the flatterer and the friend, the one who posts about you and the one who prays for you, the one who laughs with you and the one who labors for you. Because only one of them is really on your side. And if you confuse the two, you'll end up trusting a critic disguised as a cheerleader. And that misplaced trust can cost you your peace, your momentum, and sometimes your very identity. So be wise, be discerning, pay attention to patterns, and remember, it's not what someone says to your face that matters most, it's what they say when your back is turned. Because character isn't what's seen, it's what's done when no one's watching. And trust? Trust is too precious to give to someone who's proven they can't be trusted in the shadows.